You know, we all have one, a map in our head. It's that collection of assumptions we have about how the world works, how people work, and how we're supposed to fit into the whole thing. It's kind of like our own personal, invisible GPS for, well, for everything.
So here's the big question, the one that really matters. What happens when that map you're using, the one you rely on for every single turn, is just wrong? It's not a tiny little problem. It can throw your entire journey off course.
Stephen Covey just nails this with a super simple analogy. Look, you could be the most efficient, positive, and focused person in the world, right? But it doesn't matter how hard you press the gas pedal if your map is for Detroit when you're trying to get around Chicago. All that effort is completely wasted. Hard work can't fix a bad map. You've got to change the map itself. All right, so let's dive into our first example. This one is a really practical map for personal success, coming from Covey himself. It's designed to chart a course for a more effective and, honestly, a more meaningful life. So Covey noticed something really interesting. He saw that for decades, most of the advice out there was focused on what he called a personality ethic. You know, the quick fix, look good stuff. Social image, influence tactics, putting a band-aid on a problem. But he argued the real map, the one that leads to lasting success, is the character ethic. This one's built on the deep, foundational stuff. Timeless principles like integrity, courage, and patience. One's a flimsy paper map, the other's carved in stone. So how in the world do you change your map? Well, you have to change your paradigm. And a paradigm is way more than just an opinion or an attitude. It's the very lens you see the world through. It literally shapes your reality. Covey's whole point is that to make a real change in your life, you can't just tweak your behavior. You have to fundamentally change the lens you're looking through first. Okay, so Covey's map is all about navigating the outside world, right? Personal success. But what about the map for our inner world? Well, our next map charts that exact territory, the internal landscape of our own consciousness, using the chakra system as our guide. Think of this map as a ladder of consciousness you climb throughout your life. We all start at the bottom, in that first chakra. It's all about survival, safety, who we are, belonging to our group. As we move up, we get to the fourth chakra, the heart center, which is all about emotional power, love, and compassion. And if you keep going, you can reach the sixth chakra, which opens up what's called symbolic sight, the ability to see the deeper patterns and truths that lie just beneath the surface of things. It's a roadmap from pure animal instinct to a much higher awareness. All right, now we're going to shift gears into something, well, a lot more complex and pretty mind-bending. There are these theories that look at a sacred text, the Quran, not as just a book to be read from front to back, but as a deeply encoded architectural and mathematical map. The main idea here is something called structural analysis. And what that means is, forget just reading the words on the page for a second. These researchers are looking for a hidden mathematical architecture built right into the text's patterns. The theory goes that the very design of the book holds a message just as profound as the words themselves. So how do they even begin to do that? Well, proponents point to these mysterious letters you find at the start of 29 chapters. They argue these aren't just letters, they're architectural markers, almost like clues in a blueprint. They believe these markers divide the entire text into distinct sections, or sets, each with its own specific theme, from foundational laws to the stories of prophets. And this is where it gets really wild. This whole structural view opens the door for a deep mathematical dive. The goal? To find a pattern so intricate and interwoven that it couldn't possibly be random. Basically, they're searching for a divine fingerprint embedded in the very fabric of the text. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, look at this number. 31,600 trillion. Researchers say that's how many random combinations a computer would have to test to just stumble upon the structural relationships they claim to have found. The odds are just astronomical. And the toolbox they use to find these patterns is pretty diverse. We're talking about everything from primology, patterns based on prime numbers, to something called digital roots, where the frequency of key words adds up to a symbolic number. They even find things like Pythagorean triplets, arguing they symbolize a perfect cosmic balance. But this whole way of mapping doesn't just stop with the text. Oh no, it goes bigger. Some researchers try to build a bridge from these ideas all the way to modern physics, proposing a unified map of the entire cosmos. And that leads to a theory called helical particle waves. Now, stick with me here. It's the idea that every single particle in the universe is basically made of photons spinning in a double helix. It's this incredibly ambitious, radical attempt to create one single map for everything, unifying scripture and the fundamental laws of physics.
Okay, wow. After that whirlwind tour, let's just take a breath and step back for a second, because we've really come full circle. We've just looked at 3 totally different attempts to map reality, each with its own language, its own destination, and its own rules.
Think about the ground we've covered. We started with Covey's super practical map for being a more effective person. Then we dove inward with the chakra system, an energetic map for self-awareness. From there, we explored this wild, encoded map in a sacred text, and finally landed on a cosmic map that tries to tie all of existence together. I mean, a business book, an energy system, a sacred text, a physics theory, you couldn't get more different, right? And yet, they all come from the exact same place. That deep, fundamental human need to find some order in the chaos, to find meaning, and to figure out where the heck we're supposed to go next.
And that brings us to the most important point of all. Every map, every single one, has to simplify things to be useful. It has to filter reality. So the real question isn't which of these maps is right. The question we should be asking ourselves is, what are the filters in my map? What does it choose to show me? What does it leave out? And most importantly, is it still taking me where I actually want to go?